we try and bring together data sets from lots of different countries. This means we have to reconceptualize our idea of key concepts in higher education. For example, what is a student? What is a university? When do people start studying? How long does a degree take? Because very often when all of us are thinking of higher education, we often think of the systems we know best.
All different aspects of student life across their personal and schooling aspects.
Modernizing the content of higher education.
From my perspective, the social dimension means freedom for everyone.
What is the social dimension? I think it's about inclusion, so everyone can have the opportunity to be successful in higher education, irrespective of their background.
It means improving opportunities for students.
For Russia, social dimension and this conference in the whole, it is a great progress because it is our first participation in such a project.
It's a moral issue that we have to solve it, but it's also an economic issue. Like the EU Commission always claims, no talent left behind.
Community, people, students, lecturers, shareholders, stakeholders, everyone.
Il social dimension per noi è il diritto allo studio, significa la vita degli studenti, le loro aspirazioni, quello che loro vogliono essere, dove vogliono arrivare.
In most of the European higher education systems we've had a huge expansion, and one of the questions is everyone profiting in the same way from this expansion? So the first question is, are we having an equality of opportunities to study? The second point, though, is also we often talk about lifelong learning. And lifelong learning means that studying or learning doesn't start and stop at a very particular point. And particularly it doesn't stop when you're 23 or 24 years old. So the social dimension is also about giving opportunities to people who are older, who maybe originally decided not to study, but now to give them the opportunity to come back. Since the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, there's been a focus on the idea of really one of the main resources of Europe is the Europe of knowledge, and it's about maximising people's opportunities and maximising people's abilities within the European space.
Children which were born because the marriages, the Erasmus program was a matching arrangement.
So one of the roles of EUROSTUDENT, and also one of the reasons why policymakers are interested in this kind of data, is they can look at this kind of, this problem becomes much more visible to them, and they can try and think of which policy interventions they could be using to support students.
Economists consider higher education as imperfect market. Not all the typical mechanisms for regulating the situation on the market, supply and demand, apply to higher education. What to do with the young people, 16, 2022 who will not be able to or not interested to go to higher education? Where will they keep them? Social dimension is a moving target. It's a work in progress. You know, it's a moving maybe from that part of the input, which is access and the constraints on the access, is slightly now moving to the output. How is it in the process itself?